Streaming now, this is the Wood TV Live Desk.
And good morning, everyone. Phil Pinarski here with the Wood TV Live Desk. Hope you're all having a great start to your Friday. Last night on the News 8 at 6, we took a deep dive, taking a look back at the blizzard of 1978, and the man behind the incredible story that you saw there is here today on the Live Desk, Storm Team Meteorologist Blake Harms. Blake, thank you for being here this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Phil.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Right off the bat, I want to give you a big congratulations. That was an incredible story. We've already seen a lot of positive feedback coming regarding that story. It's been one of our top trending stories on our website ever since it was published. So everybody that's actually watching the stream right now, if you haven't checked it out, I highly encourage it. You can find a link to that story right now simply by clicking. If you're watching us on Facebook, you can find it in the description box or in the comment section. It will take you directly to our website where you can still watch this conversation with Blake and I, but you can also read and see all of the elements regarding the story that Blake worked so hard on that maybe even didn't make it into that video. And you know, just getting started, we do want to ask everybody that is watching on Facebook, do you remember, were you around during the blizzard of 1978? We'd love to hear some personal stories, really get that involved into this conversation. If you've got any memories at all, please leave them down below. We'll try to get to as many as we can, or if you have any questions for Blake. But Blake, we want to talk about this incredible story that you worked on. Obviously, it took a lot of time, but what, you know, just really right off the bat, what's something that stood out to you when you first started working on it? Was it something that you maybe had originally thought and then learned more about, or was it something that completely caught you off guard?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing was, you know, for someone who wasn't around during the storm, you always heard about the blizzard of 78. It's what all our big snowstorms are compared to, rightfully so, but really getting to sit down and talk with people who lived through it, particularly Bill and Florine Horsemansoff, the nurse that we talked to, just to see the impacts that were felt in their daily lives, and you know that there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands more stories across Michigan of people who went through the same thing, and just kind of getting some more detail and truly understanding the scope of the storm, I think what was kind of eye-opening for me as a meteorologist, just understanding, wow, this really was kind of the perfect storm in a sense. And again, just understanding how much it disrupted life. I mean, Bill Steffen had to walk to work. His car was snowed in, stayed at the station for 3 days. Florine, the nurse we talked to, stuck at the hospital for 4 days. Her car was in the parking lot for the next 2 weeks. She was getting rides back and forth from home. And so hearing stories like that just kind of makes you realize how much of a once-in-a-lifetime storm the blizzard of 78 was.
Right, absolutely. And of course, you know, when we had that Christmas Day storm and that Christmas week storm where, you know, we saw about 2 feet of snow, roughly around there, people were saying this is nothing like the winter storm, the blizzard of 1978. And, you know, coming from the South, I was like, oh, no, snow is snow. This couldn't be that bad. But now watching your story and just seeing all of the video from 1978, it was incredible to see. What was it like going through those old file videos and really seeing what it was like in real time back then?
Yeah, oh, it was so cool. I mean, one of the stories that we aired talking about the snowmobiles and the police asking people to stay home was done by our own Henry Erb, and he has a story coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. So he's been working here for 45 years, which is remarkable. But just kind of seeing through the camera lens of covering it at the time, you know, a lot of people were in good spirits, which was kind of neat. That's the nice thing about snowstorms, you know, unlike tornadoes, severe weather, hurricanes. You know, obviously you still have some sense of suffering. There were some fatalities here in Michigan, but it's a lot more of a sense of, you know, you get to have fun with it, and just kind of being stuck in the snowstorm is a little different than dealing with a tornado. So I think that was one of the neat parts of looking through the archive video, and there's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, the snowmobilers who were driving around the drifts up to 15 feet, the bulldozers clearing the roads, and just stuff that you can't really believe until you see it with your own eyes, and we had the chance to do that here with this footage.
Right, absolutely. We're playing some of the footage right now on the screen. We have a couple of comments. Shannon says, thank you, Shannon, for watching. She says that it was absolutely wild. I think that is probably the understatement of this entire thing, just watching your video and really seeing all of the other elements you added to the web story. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. But you bring up Bill Steffen. Obviously, we love seeing Bill on screen, loved hearing him talk and tell his story of covering the storm. He's a wealth of knowledge, obviously. But, you know, just hearing his own personal stories, you said, you know, he had to stay at the station. He was wearing the same clothes, dealing with the weather, kind of being stuck inside. What was it like hearing from him in the same profession that you're in, from a meteorologist standpoint?
Yeah, it was neat. I mean, you know, just how different things were back then and how much he sacrificed to bring people to coverage. And that's, like I said in the story, that's what really made him a celebrity. I mean, if you ask anyone who was around in 78, first of all, they know Bill Steffen. Second of all, they know Bill from the blizzard of '78 above all else. I mean, he was the man who covered it all. And just hearing from him, again, the stories, I mean, how many people would walk to work in a blizzard? That's how dedicated Bill is. And just hearing, how it changed the outcome of his career, made him who he is today. And just, getting a unique perspective from that. And because, we talked to people, a lot of people were in school at the time, had, a week off of school, but not many people were meteorologists covering the storm. Bill was one of the very few. And just hearing it from his unique perspective was really neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and just getting a couple more comments now. People are saying that it was terrifying for them. So one person saying that they had to go, they returned back to Montgomery, Alabama after that. So just avoiding the snow altogether. Mike Lewis, hi Mike, thanks for watching. He says that he gives you a compliment, Blake. He says that it was a great video, and that he really wanted to thank you for putting that out there.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's nice hearing from people right now on the live desk, but you also talked to somebody who lived through it and was a nurse at the time.
Yeah.
Can you maybe talk about that? I mean, that was also really fascinating, working nonstop for 5 days during that blizzard.
Yeah, Florine Horstmansoff, she was very gracious to us. She lives now over in Jenison, but she was at Battle Creek at the time, working at with the now defunct Lakeview General Hospital there in Battle Creek. And she left for work. She dropped off milk at her house because she knew there was a storm coming. Didn't think she was going to be stuck at the hospital. So she shows up there on a Wednesday, doesn't get home till Sunday. She told me that when the person with the four-wheel drive dropped her off, the plow hadn't come by her road. She had to walk in hip-deep snow to get down the block to her house. And it was 10 days after the storm when the plow finally came by. And so just hearing from her perspective, she said, the military was rescuing people on I-94, bringing them to the hospital because that was the only place that was open. So they had a hodgepodge of people who had surgeries that were canceled, that were scheduled to happen, but the doctors couldn't come in. You had people who were ready to be discharged but had nowhere to go, people who were being rescued, and all the nurses. So it was a hodgepodge of people there. Fortunately, they obviously had a full-service cafeteria, they had beds, but just a really unique situation to be in at the time, is being in a place like that with so many people all experiencing the same thing. And she said the same thing. They watched the weather coverage on TV, waited for the storm to finally pass, and that was a really unique perspective, and I enjoyed listening to what she had to say.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the big things that stood out to me was Bill was mentioning it, how this was the day before cell phone streaming services, really everything. So for entertainment purposes, what do you do? Well, you turn on the TV and you watch Bill Steffen tell you about what's going on out there, and really kind of just keeping everybody informed.
Yeah.
Real quick though, Blake, I do want to remind everybody that we are talking about the blizzard of '78. Blake's special last night aired on the News 8 at 6. If you didn't get a chance to watch that, I highly encourage heading on over to our website, woodtv.com. There you can find the web story. It's got a ton of extra information. I want to talk to you, Blake, about all of that extra information, just finding all these other things. How did you kind of decide what to add and what you found was important? There were a lot of newspaper clippings I saw in there.
Yeah, one of the first steps for me was look at newspapers, because at the time, almost everyone had the newspaper. And so they had one of the largest newsrooms in West Michigan, the Grand Rapids Press in particular, and their coverage throughout the storm was phenomenal. So I really enjoyed reading through some of that stuff. And the writing style in the 70s was unique too, in that even the press reporters were somewhat whimsical with some of their stories about how people were dealing with the snow. And actually, the press was still published, and they had people go out and deliver in the blizzard, which was remarkable. The Kalamazoo, I think it was the Kalamazoo Gazette, I may be wrong on the name, but the Kalamazoo newspaper was not published the second day of the blizzard, which at the time was a big deal, again, because everyone got the newspaper. Even Allegan County had its own paper at the time, and Berry County, we had some clippings from Ionia, Muskegon. And so just reading all of those really gave you a full picture. They covered it from a lot of different angles, and I think that was one of my favorite parts. And then the other aspect was viewer pictures. I'd only seen a few pictures here and there, but getting people to dig them out and send them to us was really neat. We have some incredible ones, and there's one in particular of an Audi parked on the East Beltline, and the snow is 2 or 3 times higher than the car. We're talking a snowdrift of well over 10 feet. And on the East Beltline here in Grand Rapids, it's crazy when you go back and look at those pictures. And again, it's one of those things you don't really believe until you see it with your own eyes. And that's been one of the neatest parts of this project.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I want to encourage everybody to check out the full story right now over on our website, woodtv.com. Blake, we're going to let you go.
Yeah,
Again, really appreciate your story. Really, really appreciate you coming on the live desk this
Hey,
morning.
thank you, Phil. It's been a great time. We're already working on our next one. This year marks 25 years since the derecho of 1998, the big windstorm that moved through. So that's kind of our next big project. So we're looking forward to bringing that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can't wait. All right, Blake, thanks for being here. And I want to thank everybody else for tuning into this latest edition of the Wood TV Live Desk. I'm Phil Pinarski, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.